Hi, and welcome back to the final part of the story. I hope you enjoyed the first two parts. I only wanted to ask one question. Please leave in the comments how many videos would like to see in a week. Like you want one in a week or two or one every day. Leave them in the comments, please. So we begin. After a dozen hours or so, I opened the bathroom door. The lights in the cabin were back to normal and I couldn't smell any sulfur. I cautiously made my way back to my seat and almost cried when the grinning, crying flight attendant came by offering a meal. That crappy airline food was the most delicious thing I'd ever eaten in my life. When I finished, my mind immediately turned to Mary. What had happened to her, I wondered. I crept down the aisle towards first class, trying to keep a low profile. Surprisingly, the flight attendants were nowhere to be seen. They'd almost seemed to ignore me, and as if they wanted me to find her. She had a row to herself, and was staring down her phone in the window seat. I slid into the aisle and shook her arm. "Mary!" I hissed. She pulled out her headphones and stared at me with a surprised expression. "Yeah? What's going on?" "Are you okay?" I asked. "What did that thing do to you? What did they do to you? Answer me." "I'm sorry. Do I know you from somewhere?" she asked. "What do you mean?" I realized, with sinking horror, that she had no idea who I was. I fought back tears. "Mary, how long have you been on this flight?" She checked her watch on her wrist. "Well, it's 4:03 a.m., so a few hours at least." She stared at me as the same way you'd look at a person claiming they were the second coming of Christ. Her tone was low and reassuring. "Hey, don't worry so much. Look on the bright side. We'll be landing in about an hour." I felt an iron grip on my arm and looked back to see two flight attendants. "Sir, this area is for first-class passengers only," they said. I could still see streaks of blood staining their front of the uniforms, though. I was escorted back to my seat, where I spent the next several days. Attendants continued to stop by, offering food. I would use the bathrooms, and soon I was absolutely going crazy with the monotony. In retrospect, those few days weren't so bad. There's a lot of content on the internet after all, even with crappy plain Wi-Fi. No, it didn't get so bad until days later when the Wi-Fi failed. It was sometime a week later that I lost control and began screaming for a flight attendant. They didn't come for several minutes, but eventually one did. "Just let me see the captain," I asked. The flight attendant bent low and spoke with that same customer service voice. "I'm sorry, sir. The captain has made his decision regarding you quite clear. You didn't answer his call and will therefore wait." "How long?" "Quite long, I'm afraid. Don't worry though, sir. We'll be landing in about an hour." She straightened and walked away. I started making notches on various parts of the seat back to keep track of different things. One notch for each time I used the bathroom, one for each meal, and one for every time I watched a given movie. That sort of thing. It was hell. I watched every movie in the seat back a dozen times over. If I ever acted out badly enough, I would be escorted back to my seat by one or more flight attendants. Any attempt at talking or conversation with other passengers was met by confusion, and then a quick escort back to my seat. I'd guess it was around day 30. In a moment of panic and psychosis, I broke my laptop and phone, screaming out at the top of my lungs. No one around me reacted in any way. 2 months later, I stunk. The muscles in my leg were tight and cramped constantly. I finally concluded that suicide was my only option. After my 128th rewatch of Thor Ragnarok, I got on my feet and limped towards the emergency exit. I knew normally the pressure inside the airplane forced the doors closed, but I figured that nothing about my situation was normal. If this didn't work, I'd find some other more painful way to go. I grabbed the handle and swung it up. To my shock, the door opened easily, though no wind of any kind whipped around the cabin. It remained the same standard temperature. The open door called to me, a black portal out of the plane. I stared at it for a long moment, almost too long. An attendant's hand grabbed my shoulder, pulling me away. In a fit of anger and strain that surprised me, I wrenched away and jumped out of the plane. The wind whipping past my face was almost magical, a new sensation after so many months of the same. The ocean below me grew closer and larger, and I realized suddenly I didn't want to die after all. It grew larger and larger and larger and larger until it seemed that all I could see was darkness and waves. I impacted on the surface of the water so fast and hard that my entire body jerked around the seat. I pulled my hand back, sucking at my bruised knuckle. I'd hit on the seat in front of me. "No," I whispered. Then I shouted, "No, no, 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 no." A flight attendant ran down the aisle, kneeling beside me. "Are you okay, sir?" I clenched my hands into a fist, almost swinging at her. But then I realized she wasn't grinning, nor was she crying. To be honest, she looked a little scared of me. I reached my right hand down to my pocket where I could feel my now unbroken phone. 4:04 a.m. "Sir, if you can calm down, we'll be landing in about an hour." My mouth tasted like ash. "Thank you," I said. I stared unblinking at my phone. It now displayed 4:05 a.m. Then I looked out my window and began to cry at the sight of the city lights below me. We did land in about an hour. I can't even begin to explain why or how or what happened to me, but I'm currently sitting in an airport cafe, recording this. I'm free. I'm out. Or am I?